War changes history, but behind the dates and battles lie the lives of ordinary people. Among them are children whose childhood was forever altered. Their world became a place of fear and fragile hope. Today, we listen to their voices, to see war through the eyes of the most vulnerable yet resilient heroes, children caught in occupied lands. Occupation was not just a change of power, it was a harsh new reality where every day was a fight for survival. Familiar homes became fortresses, and streets turned into zones of constant danger. For children, this meant not only fearing bombings and shootings, but also a complete upheaval of their understanding of the world. Many first heard the thunder of war in their youth and had to grow up too quickly. They lived hiding in dugouts and basements, learning to recognize the approaching sound of planes, friend or foe. Every explosion made their hearts race faster, yet hope remained. Hope for liberation and a return to peace. Memories of childhood during occupation are filled not only with hunger, cold, and fear, but also with incredible strength. These stories testify to how even the smallest people preserved their humanity and hope in the darkest conditions. They shared their last pieces of bread, looked after each other, and dreamed of a future free from war. One such story is that of Viktor Rodionovich, a 12-year-old boy when enemy forces entered his village. Viktor remembers hiding in a ravine with his friends, watching the unfamiliar soldiers take over their homes. Despite their fear, they witnessed moments of kindness, soldiers sharing meager rations with prisoners. These memories show that even in the darkest times, humanity finds a way. Other children recall their mothers digging shelters to hide them from air raids. They lived in constant scarcity, afraid to step outside and face the occupiers. Yet even then, a spark of hope burned in their hearts. These stories are a living lesson in history. They remind us that war is not just great battles, but also the small heroes whose endurance and faith helped them survive even the most terrible circumstances. Life under occupation was a constant struggle, especially for children who faced hardships no child should ever know. Every day was a battle against hunger, fear, and uncertainty. The streets that once echoed with the laughter of play now whispered warnings of danger and loss. Children learned early to be cautious, walking softly, hiding at the first sound of footsteps, and avoiding places where soldiers gathered. Food was scarce. Families lived off small rations that had to be divided carefully. Many children went hungry, their bellies empty, but their spirits persistent. Shelters were more than just places to hide. Dugouts, basements, and makeshift bunkers became temporary homes where children clung to each other for comfort. The cold was biting, especially in winter, and sickness often spread silently in these cramped spaces. Despite the brutality, moments of resilience shone through. Children found small joys, playing simple games, sharing stories, and saving treasured belongings that reminded them of a life before the war. Their eyes held stories of strength and a determination to hold on to hope. These hardships shaped not only their bodies, but their minds and hearts. Many children spoke of the loneliness and fear, but also of the courage they discovered within themselves. Their memories reveal a profound lesson that even in the darkest times the human spirit can endure. From the very first days of occupation, fear and uncertainty became constant companions for children and their families. Many families were forced out of their homes, which were then occupied by enemy soldiers. For nearly 3 years, some children lived in cramped quarters, moving between relatives, neighbors, or hiding in makeshift shelters like dugouts and barns. Life was a persistent struggle to remain unnoticed and safe. One girl recalls how she, her sister, and brother were once attacked by a soldier's German shepherd dog. The dog knocked them down and growled threateningly while the soldier laughed cruelly. These moments of terror were balanced by acts of courageous kindness. Villagers risked punishment to help wounded prisoners of war, washing bloodied bandages in rivers and secretly bringing food to those in need. As the enemy prepared to retreat, violence did not cease. Houses were burned, and many civilians, including children, were killed. One grandmother ordered her grandchildren to flee a bomb shelter just before soldiers opened fire. Amidst gunfire and grenades, they barely escape death by hiding behind a concrete well ring. Moments like these painfully illustrate the horrors children face daily. Despite such brutality, stories of survival abound. Some children were deported to forced labor camps far from home, enduring hunger, beatings, and inhumane conditions. Yet even in the darkest places, acts of solidarity and hope persisted. One young girl recalls a German soldier secretly giving her food during the cold nights in captivity. Others tell of narrow escapes and acts of bravery that saved lives. Children sometimes served as messengers, scouts, or even participated in partisan resistance. Their resilience, whether through small acts of defiance, unity with family, or sheer will to live, formed the backbone of hope in times of despair. These survival stories remind us that amid the horrors of war, humanity persists. Innocent lives were tested beyond measure, yet the spirit of children endured, offering lessons in courage, sacrifice, and the unyielding hope for freedom. The relationships between children, their families, and the occupying forces were complicated and often painful. In many occupied territories, interactions between locals and enemy soldiers were shaped by fear, survival, and coercion. Thousands of children were born from relationships between local women and occupying soldiers, often marked by stigma, rejection, and harsh judgment from their communities. These children, sometimes called children of the enemy, faced discrimination and identity struggles throughout their lives. Their mothers were often ostracized or accused of betrayal, while the children grew up caught between two worlds. In some cases, mothers entered relationships with occupying soldiers out of fear or to secure food and protection in a desperate situation. These choices, forced by circumstance, left lasting scars on families and communities. After the war, many women and their children were displaced, sent to orphanages, or forced to hide their origins. Children's interactions with the occupiers varied widely. Some were used by occupying forces as spies or messengers, often under threat or manipulation. Others tried to maintain a fragile peace within their families, balancing fear of violence with the need to protect their loved ones. Despite this, many families united in resistance and solidarity, hiding children from the occupiers, supporting partisan movements, or simply surviving day by day under impossible conditions. The bonds between parents and children became a source of strength and resilience in the face of hatred and suspicion. These complex relationships reveal the human cost of occupation beyond the battlefield, illustrating moral dilemmas, social fractures, and the indomitable will of children and families to survive and retain their dignity. The stories of children who lived through occupation are not just fragments of history, they are powerful lessons for us all. Remembering their experiences teaches us the true cost of war and the value of peace. These stories remind us that war destroys more than cities and armies. It tears apart families and childhoods, leaving scars that last a lifetime. But they also show the strength of the human spirit, especially in the youngest victims who found courage and hope in the darkest of times. It is essential that future generations learn these lessons, not only through textbooks, but through the personal stories that capture the heart and soul of history. By understanding what children endured, we cultivate empathy, respect, and a commitment to peace. Honoring the memory of those who suffered during occupation helps us build a world where such tragedies never happen again. The legacy of resilience, sacrifice, and hope must inspire us to protect freedom and human dignity for all. Our duty is to remember, to teach, and to carry forward these stories so that the voices of these children live on, guiding us toward a better future.